When you look at a river, it's easy to just see this peaceful ribbon of water, right? But that's just what's on the surface. In reality, rivers are these incredible, powerful master sculptors that have been shaping our planet for millions of years. So how on earth do they do it?
I mean, it seems impossible, doesn't it? How can a simple stream of water carve out something as absolutely massive as the Grand Canyon? That is the big question we're going to tackle today. We're going to explore the entire life story of a river, from the moment it's born all the way to its old age.
So here's our game plan. We'll start with a river's three main jobs, get to know its basic anatomy, then dive into its super energetic youth, check out the tools it uses to literally sculpt the land, admire some of its first creations, and finally, see how it changes as it hits middle age.
Okay, so first things first. Every single river on this planet, I don't care if it's a tiny little stream or the giant Amazon, has a lifelong to-do list. It's basically a three-part job description that explains everything it does.
First up, erosion. Its job is to wear away the land. Then, transportation. It has to carry all that material it just broke off downstream. And finally, deposition. When it starts to lose energy, it has to drop all that stuff. Erode, transport, deposit. That cycle is literally the engine that drives so much geological change.
All right, before we jump in and follow our river downstream, we got to learn the lingo. Just a few key terms here that'll act like a map for us as we go.
It's pretty simple, actually. The source, that's just where it starts, usually way up in the highlands. The mouth is the end of the line, where it flows into a sea or a lake. Tributaries are the smaller streams that kind of join forces to make the main river bigger. And a watershed? Think of it like a big divider, the high ground that separates one river's territory from another's. Okay, basics are covered. Let's get this journey started. A river's life begins way up high in the mountains. This is what we call its youthful stage. And just like any kid, it's super fast, it's powerful, and it's full of this restless energy. And all that energy is focused on one thing. Because the mountain slopes are so steep, the water is just flying downhill, and its main job is what we call vertical erosion. That means cutting straight down. The river isn't trying to get wider just yet. It's obsessed with digging its channel deeper and deeper and deeper, and that's how it carves out those classic steep-sided V-shaped valleys you see in the mountains.
But how does it actually do this carving? I mean, it's not just the water itself pushing things around. A river has this amazing toolkit, 4 different ways it grinds away at the earth.
These 4 methods are hydraulic action, corrosion, attrition, and solution. Yeah, they might sound a bit technical, but each one works in a really cool, different way. Let's break them down.
First up, hydraulic action. This is just pure, raw power. Imagine the force of the water slamming into the riverbanks and the riverbed. It forces its way into any little crack or weakness in the rock. The best way to think about it? It's like a natural power washer, just blasting away bits of rock until they break right off.
Next, we've got corrosion, which is also called abrasion. And this is where the river gets really clever, because it uses the stuff it's carrying as a weapon. All the rocks, the pebbles, the sand, it drags them along the bottom and smashes them against the banks. The analogy here is perfect. It's like liquid sandpaper, just constantly grinding the channel.
Now, while all that's happening, something else is going on with the river's tools themselves. This is called attrition. As all those boulders and rocks are tumbling downstream, they're crashing into each other. And those collisions chip off all their sharp edges, breaking them down, making them smaller, smoother, and rounder. It's basically a giant natural rock tumbler.
And last but not least, we have the invisible force, solution. This one's all about chemistry. The river water itself can be slightly acidic, and it can actually dissolve certain minerals right out of the rocks it's flowing over, especially rocks like limestone. You don't see it happening, but over thousands and millions of years, it makes a huge difference.
So, what happens when you take a super fast, energetic young river and give it this incredible toolkit? Well, you get some of the most stunning and dramatic landscapes on the entire planet. These are the masterpieces of a young river.
And one of the most famous examples, of course, is a waterfall. It all starts when a river flows over a patch of hard, tough rock that's sitting on top of some softer rock. The river's power, especially that hydraulic action we talked about, just chews away at the soft rock underneath way faster. This creates an overhang of the hard rock, and eventually gravity takes over and it collapses into the plunge pool below. Then the whole waterfall has effectively moved a little bit upstream, and the entire process just starts all over again.
But young rivers don't just carve down. Sometimes they do something way more dramatic, something called river piracy. And yeah, it is exactly as cool as it sounds.
A stronger, more powerful river can literally erode its way sideways into a weaker neighbor's valley and just steal all its water. It's wild.
And this act of piracy leaves behind some really distinct evidence. The spot where the theft happened is called the elbow of capture, because it creates this really sharp bend. The river that got robbed is now just a tiny little misfit river sitting in a valley that's way too big for it. And the old abandoned valley is now called a wind gap. So why does this matter to us? Well, these wind gaps create these awesome flat pathways through hilly areas, which turn out to be the perfect places to build roads and railways.
Okay, so after all that drama and energy up in the mountains, our river's journey moves on. It leaves the steep slopes behind and starts flowing across much flatter land. This is its mature stage, or its middle age. And now its energy changes and its whole mission in life changes too.
I mean, just look at the difference. The steep gradient is gone. Now it's gentle, so the river slows down. Its main goal isn't vertical erosion anymore, digging down. Now it's all about lateral erosion, which means carving sideways. It's less about destruction and more about just transporting its load, and it even starts to drop some of that sediment. And because of this, the valley totally transforms from that tight V-shape to a much wider, more open landscape.
This new sideways energy makes the river start to snake across the land in these big, looping curves we call meanders. On the outside of a curve, the water has to travel further, so it moves faster, and it erodes the bank, creating a steep river cliff. But on the inside of the bend, the water is slower, so it drops its sediment, building up a gentle slope called a slip-off slope. It's this constant dance of erosion on one side and deposition on the other that makes these meanders grow and actually move across the valley floor over time. So, we've journeyed with our river through its wild, energetic youth, carving V-shaped valleys and creating waterfalls. We've followed it into its mature middle age, where it slows down and starts to meander across wide plains. We've seen it go from a powerful sculptor to a patient transporter. So that